I will call the Tuesday, August 3rd Finance Committee meeting to order.
Yes, I have Sullivan, Ramsey, and Wilson present in person. I'm expecting older desire to join the Zoom.
First item is approval of minutes. Is there a motion?
I'll move this approval.
There is a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of having signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and the motion carries.
Older desire has
Okay. Next item is audit of the bills. Is there a motion?
Recording in progress.
So we have both regular purchase order items and the credit card charge. Any discussions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And can you hear Luke?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the audio part. For some reason, it's not working.
No. All right, all those, so all those opposed, motion carries 3 or 4. First item is bids and quotes. Item number 1, update and possible direction on award of 2 bids to Nelson Excavating Sun LLC for Middleton Branch Stream Bank stabilization bid work. Do you have anything to add other than what's in the notes? Just that this isn't going to happen until FEMA hires a contractor to do the environmental assessment.
Yeah, from our discussion with FEMA, they could not guarantee that we'd be in a position to start the work beginning of summer of next year. They said it's typically an 8 to 12-month process, but it depends when issues arise. And so our feeling after that call was that we should reject these bids because we don't want to be in a situation where we're not able to proceed and we're past the window for the contractor. And once we have a better idea of the FEMA timeline and process, and that's getting close to wrapped up, then go off. Sean Stowski's taking the lead on this. He is on the call. He's available to give more information for questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Sean?
Do you know whether it costs for us to, for that first of the photo and all these bids and some of the staff time, and I think it's very unreasonable to ask these guys to, hold it, after 23, right?
Well, we would have to, if we canceled the bids, we would have to rebid everything at some point in the future. I don't think we're asking anybody to hold their pricing. It's just that because it's not workable in the near future, either for this year or for fall 22, the only thing we can really do is reject all the bids and put it out for bid again, probably December of 22, January 23. Is that what people's thinking on is?
Yeah, I think if everything goes well, there's a possibility the work could be done in 2022, but we don't know that at this point. So I think the recommendation is reject the bids now. If we get to spring of next year and it looks like it's possible to do work yet in 2022, we can rebid, but probably more likely we're looking at bidding for work in 2022.
And is anybody talking to Nelson Excavating about our situation?
I defer to Sean on that question. And Sean, are you able to hear the conversation? I just want to make sure the audio is working.
Yeah, it's a little, I don't know, modulated or choppy, but I understood it well enough.
No, I have been talking mostly with our
We
consultant.
we can't hear you.
Oh,
I can
I'm
hear you,
not-
John. I think
I'm
the
not
people on-
muted.
Yeah, I think people on Zoom can hear, but I don't think that the people at the chambers can hear us on Zoom from those of us who are participating via Zoom.
Oh, shoot.
And people in chambers are coming across on Zoom is very garbled.
Right.
Yeah. Shoot. Well, that's going to be harder then. I don't have any way to type. Good to know. Unfortunate. Of course, now I can't hear Bill either.
Oh, they're on mute, it looks like.
Oh,
Here we go.
oh, now they're
And then
back.
we have a $900,000 from the county. I don't know what the date by that we use that money. So we are looking at $1.5 million here, which is we already have. And I don't know how much FEMA is going to get, but we don't want to lose that much. I don't think anybody wants to.
I don't think that's an issue at this point.
Well, we don't know that.
So I'm assuming that Sean can let us know about that as well. That
Yeah,
both Dane County and DNR are understanding that people work in mysterious ways and would be accommodated to us for that.
Well, DNR did agree up to 22, but I never, it's already been.
I just restarted my thing to see if that would work.
I don't know. Yeah, is my audio coming through at all in the council chambers? I'll take that as a no.
Bruce said he also contact you. but it looks like it was-
Oh. He must have just tried to call because I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Hopefully it's turned speaker on.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Everything keeps quitting on me. That might sound. Hey Drew, it's Christy. I'm having some audio issues and Wirecast just keeps quitting on me. um, so that's what's going on. I think so, because I haven't been able to hear anybody. It's just been so weird. Yeah, I know. That'll be next. Yeah, I'll do that now. Let's see if that does anything.
Do those of us on Zoom have any idea
Right.
what's going on?
It sounds like the
Okay,
video
okay,
gal
thanks for-
is trying to troubleshoot on the phone.
All right, Drew's gonna be on his way. We're gonna restart the computer.
All right.
Well, does Mr. Barco have to do it? Because I don't notice it's not on the screen. too,
Um,
And I think Marco is moving for the sound.
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, okay.
Now it all of a sudden, that part worked.
Oh,
Okay, Sean.
Sean, can you
so
try again?
yeah, is Zoom audio working? Are you picking me up? Oh, wait, now I've been muted. Okay. Now is it,
The sound system part's not quite working.
now is it picking me up? Huh. Let me try to mute. Anything now? Bill, council chambers? Nothing.
To act upon opening of bids. So we need to make a decision about these bids.
So there's a reason for it.
What's,
So there's a reason for
yeah,
it.
there's a reason for action. We held it over a couple meetings, but we're at the point where we need to act. And I think there's enough unknown that we need to reject these bids, start the FEMA review process for the environmental assessment, and then rebid when we know more. Sean's giving me a thumbs up, so I said that correctly.
That's the flags that you use.
Yeah.
You can probably hear us, but.
Yeah,
I think we're waiting to make sure that he's understood that they can talk to Middleton and also Brittany's concerned that we have to do award grant. DNR and Dane County.
Conversation with technical public works and have conversations directly. My understanding, I think both agencies are very aware of the issue and that it's not something that we created in the process, but they don't know if we have confirmation beyond 2020.
Maybe we can get this resolved, but get some confirmation, but I think we have enough to. Is there a motion to reject the bids? I make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? So you're gonna, Sean somehow gonna tell us whether or not the two grants are still gonna be
Yeah,
active.
I'll see if I can get that information from Sean prior to the council.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? And the motion carries. Item 1 under miscellaneous is consideration and discussion of selecting a consultant for an environmental assessment of the Branch Creek Stream Bank and Trail Bridge projects. Is there a motion? And this is to get FEMA.
Yeah, so we're looking for direction on if we should allow FEMA to take the lead on hiring and working with the environmental consultant, or we have the option of hiring our own. That recommendation is to let FEMA do that process. The advantages of that is FEMA on that way. And I think there are some advantages of FEMA having selected someone they're comfortable throughout the process. If we go on and hire a consultant on our own, we need to front the cost. We can apply for reimbursement once there's a approved project, but that would be at the end of the process, and it would be limited to 87.5% funding rather than full funding. We have a local share. The other thing, which is an intangible, but if we hire our own consultant, there could be additional time from FEMA to review our selection process, as well as reviewing the final work product. The potential advantage of hiring a consultant is if they're working directly with us, perhaps they're keep their feet to the fire as far as moving through the But given where we are in the timeline, our thought was it's probably going to be difficult to be ready to do something for next summer anyway. And it makes sense to let FEMA take the lead. They're familiar with the process, have done front the cost, and we'll try to keep pushing and working with the consultant to get it done this time.
And I think that's probably a good approach to things. Help me understand how FEMA is going to charge this project back, right? So is that something they're just going to say, okay, well, you know what, here's $100 to do this. No, we had to pay 10 for our BA. So your net is 90. Is that something that they're going to do? I don't think it's because they're magnanimous that they're going to do this study for us. So what does that mean in terms of what they would potentially give us?
Yeah, so my understanding is that if FEMA hires the consultant, they pay for that cost 100% FEMA, and that's outside of our project budget. That's just part of FEMA's cost to doing the review, similar to their staff that are reviewing our project. We have the option, if we want, to hire our own consultant. If we do that, at the end of the process, once we have an approved project, we can apply for reimbursement of the 87.5% of that cost, but that would come at the end. My understanding of reading the guidelines is that if FEMA determines there's an environmental assessment required, it's their obligation to have an environmental assessment done. I think they provide this option that the local community can hire their own consultant. And some communities may choose to do that. And if it's a small project, defined area, maybe there's some advantages of doing that to do it a little quicker. But for something that's complex, I think that it probably makes sense to have FEMA once a row. And it shouldn't affect our project reimbursement. FEMA is paying for this cost, that's on them, and that doesn't affect the bottom line. So
Right.
Any other discussion? So, is there a motion? I'll make a motion that we. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. 2 is American Rescue Plan funding option concepts for stormwater infrastructure projects. Is this Sean that we can't talk to?
Yeah, I can introduce it, but I'm not going to be able to answer questions as well as Sean, certainly. So similar to at the last meeting, we provided a list of items of the assistance to individuals, primarily employee-related items. What you have in your packet is a list of potential stormwater infrastructure projects. And at this point, this is just informational. We're trying to give you information on some of the projects that are potentially eligible for funding under ARPA. This has been reviewed by Water Resources Management, and my understanding is that they've tried to identify them in a potential priority order. And part of the consideration was whether or not there's alternative funding. So trying to look at projects that we don't have another funding source for, like TIF or from Texas and so on. So it has funding. At this point, when you wanted to provide that, get any feedback, and I think the thought process is that if there are projects on this list that would be potentially moving forward, that's something that can be discussed as part of the budget process. But if there's any initial feedback or questions, we want to try to address those.
This one should be the one that is your.
The only question I had on here was the South Pond dredging. That thing's been kicking me around stormwater utility for 2 years now. And my recollection is that we determined that it really didn't need to be done. There may be some cleanup for that initial forebay. Actually, where the but that they sure itself.
Yeah.
Dredge. So I'm not sure why that's on the list. Get someone to help us with that at some point. And I understand this is just a laundry list.
And my recollection with the self-con was that I think that they determined it wouldn't be as large of a benefit as the original thought, which made it a lower priority project. I think there's still a thought that some work should be done at some point. But I can't speak to how that compares to the other ones out there. I'll follow up with Sean or Eric and public works.
Because at this point, it's not a priority of utility. So just get some clarification on it, but we can get forward. So does anybody have any questions about any of these projects that are on here?
Not all these projects, will there be other infrastructure projects related to stormwater? Would be part of this also,
I think I can try to answer that. Under the ARPA, the available infrastructure categories are water, sanitary sewer, stormwater, and broadband access. Other things like roads are only eligible to the extent they're required for the other types of infrastructure. And I give an example of if you're replacing a water main or repair the street, what that was. From our initial review, I'm not aware of any
Yeah, I know.
It's
really scary for mine as well.
that's needed that we don't have funding for the utilities. We have started looking at some energy efficiency options for utilities. It looks like that would be eligible. And one of our major electrical uses is in our water pumping, and we could have some energy efficiency projects that will help cut down some of our energy costs. I know Kelly is trying to work with the utility staff to try to.
So, I mean, just to put a finer point on that, to the extent that we can lower the operating expenses of utility, right? That's almost an equivalent of a tax cut. So I think we should probably look at something, those efficiency issues, in great detail, right? I know it's not something everybody get all excited about, but with water utility efficiency, there's no specific user group that doesn't get an impact.
and agree that it pays back every year now.
Right.
Maybe we can do something with that.
Almost as good as history remains.
Right.
That makes sense.
Any other questions? Right, unfortunately, none of these are, none of these are gonna hit the front page of the Times, but I think there's anywhere we can build efficiencies into existing systems that we have, that in effect becomes a tax cut for everyone.
Main thing is the federal government is still issuing more clarifications. We don't really have to jump at it. We have to, because time. And I think this list is good, but as you add up these numbers, we have $2.1 million, and these add up to more like $12 or $13 million right here.
All right. Moving on. Item number 3 is update on second quarter 2021 investment reports.
Yeah, this is your quarterly investment report update. No action required, just informational. There hasn't been much change in the overall return of the city's portfolio over the last quarter. Our weighted average return for yield is at 1.05%. That's primarily being driven by the investments that we have that are outstanding, that are shown on page 2 of the report with the various CDs, federal agencies, and municipal bonds that we have outstanding. As some of those mature, we are expecting our yield to decline over time because the reinvestment options are going to get a lower interest rate. We're expecting to get some additional additional funds in August from our August tax settlement, and we'll also be getting our bond proceeds in. And later this year, we have some investments that are maturing. We've got about $2 million maturing in September, another $2 million in October. So we'll be looking to place some new investments. If you look at the investments by maturity on the bottom left corner of the front page of the report, you can see that we've got a good amount in cash and invested in the 1 and 2 year time frame. And that's a reflection that as interest rates were declining, we were shortening the term of our portfolio. I think as rates have on the longer end are a little bit higher, as we discussed previously, we have some options to pick up some yield looking in the 3, 4, 5 year range. We set targets that limit no more than 15% of the portfolio invested in 4 or 5 years, 25% in 3. We're well below those. I don't see us hitting those maximum targets, but I think as we look at investing funds and looking at the cash flow, we may be placing some investments in that time frame, pick up what we can for yield for funds that we don't need immediately. Everyone's kind of speculating on how fast interest rates might move and how quickly the Fed will move. But from what I'm hearing, it seems like there's pretty much a consensus that we're not going to see big changes in 2022, and people are kind of looking at 2023, 2024. And at least for the next couple of years, if we can pick up some additional yield by going out a little further, I think there's an opportunity there. And just to give an idea, just looking at where the treasury rates are right now, 1 year treasury is at 0.06, 2 years at 0.18, and 5 years at 0.68. None of those are great, but the short-term money for a year and less is paying almost nothing. So where we can, I think it makes sense to pick up a little bit of yield and then just keeping funds available so that when you start to move. You happy to answer any questions?
Do we need to look at another investment class? Trying, I mean, we purposely limited what we can do to some of the more conservative items. Are there more aggressive items that are still within our allowable risk parameters for municipality?
There aren't a lot of options out there. By state statute, we're pretty limited in what we can invest in.
Right.
One area that we haven't gone into that I think there's some flexibility for would if we were to do high grade corporate debt. I'm not sure that I would want to go that direction. I can certainly take a look at it and provide an update in future meetings. But you know, there's kind of a rule of thumb with investing is if you don't want to sacrifice quality to go after additional yield, at least with municipal funds. So my thought is I think that we can pick up a little bit more yield by going on a little longer term, and if we have the cash flow to do that, I'd be more comfortable with that rather than moving into corporates or other investments that we may quite as big.
The federal agency class here, that includes the federal home loans, mortgages.
Yeah. Federal Home Loan Bank is one of the ones that issues regularly. We do have some investments with them, but I would include that under federal agencies. And some of the investments that we had purchased earlier this year, we did a couple of callable investments with Federal Home Loan Bank going out for 5 years. There is the potential that those could be called, but that could give us some pickup in yield, and if they're called, then we have the ability to go out at higher.
Any other questions for investment? All right, so item 4 is update on the second quarter general fund financial report.
Yeah, and this again, there's no action needed. This is just in here for informational purposes. We've got the year-to-date actuals included through June. There is a column for the projection, especially on the expenditure side. Most of the projections, as you see, are still indicating what was budgeted. As part of our budget process, when we ask the departments for their budget requests, we're also asking them to provide their projections, department by department. And when we get that in later this month, we'll have more specific projections on the expenditure side. The major things that we know that we're watching at this point, on the revenue side, we have first and second quarter room tax returns in. Second quarter was far better than first quarter. But we're still being cautious in our projection and projecting that we may not hit our budget target. And the big question here is going to be what happens this fall and now with the Delta variant. We're just trying to be conservative and not over anticipate something like that. We deal with the school resource officer, because we do not have that position in place and the agreement in place for the last school year, that you will have a revenue shortfall there. That will be offset by savings in the police department vacancies. There's some updated projections across the licenses and permits just based on activity to date. But the net result of all of this right now is that we're projecting that we're going to be pretty close to a break even, possibly a small surplus in the general fund. We'll know more when we get information from the but if anything, I would expect that we may find some areas where departments are trending under budget and we may have some savings that are taking more projections. So it looks like we're on target to good budget. Don't know yet if we'll have a small surplus, but it's possible.
And just for clarification, small surplus means about $8,000.
Well, yeah, I think if you look at the projection right now, we're at about $8,000. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if that grows somewhat. Typically, when we get the department projections, that's some items where there's savings or other positions that will result in savings. But nothing major that we're looking at this point.
Okay. Any questions about the
Yeah.
year-to-date performance? Okay.
Yeah.
At this
That's what I was
point,
gonna
it's
offer.
past 7 o'clock.
Just
and Finance is still going to be